Hello, my name is Douglas Bloch. I'm an author and depression counselor. Welcome to your Depression Recovery channel, where each week we talk about healing tools and coping strategies to heal from depression and anxiety. The topic of today's talk is Depression, the Invisible Disease. This morning I had an appointment with my doctor. I was seeing him because the previous evening a glass bowl had shattered in my hands, leaving a cut that was a half an inch wide and a quarter inch deep. When I got to the office, the doctor took a look at it and said, "This is a definite, serious cut." And he dressed it, applied some bandages on it, and said, "I want you to go home. I want you to keep the dressing dry, and I want you to basically change it every 2 days. If you do that, this wound will heal of itself, because your body has natural healing power." Sure enough, within the month, it was healed. At the same time, I was and am going through a major depressive disorder. But this wound to the brain, unlike the cut, is not visible. It lies within the recesses of the brain, covered by a thick skull. This is the problem that people face who have depression and anxiety. It's not visible to the outsider. Therefore, they don't get the treatment or the respect that they deserve. When I run my depression groups on Tuesday nights, 6 to 8 people gather in my living room and talk about their pain and their goals for recovery. But to the outsider looking in, these people would seem perfectly normal. They would never know that within the recesses of their minds lay despair, pain, suicidal ideation, and hopelessness. I've just described how depression and anxiety are invisible diseases. But what if they were visible? What if people could actually see what you and I feel like on the outside? Well, there's a man named Russell Hampton in a book called The Far Side of Despair who addressed that question, and I'd like to read a passage from his book right now. If there were a physical disease that manifested itself in some particularly ugly way, such as pulsating sores or a sloughing off of the flesh, accompanied by pain of an intense and chronic nature, readily visible to everyone, and if that disease affected 15 million people in our country, and further, if there were virtually no help or succor for most of these persons, and they were forced to walk among us in their obvious agony, we would rise up as one social body in sympathy and anger. We would give of our resources, both human and economic, and we would plead and demand that this suffering be eased. What Hampton has done here is simply pose the question, what would it look like if the agony of the depressed person on the inside could be manifested on the outside? And he goes into that and says, wow, if people really knew what it was like, they would do everything in their power to help heal this disorder. Another metaphor I like to use is that people with anxiety and depression get around in invisible wheelchairs. Again, because of this, the public does not take depression and anxiety seriously enough. And the only way that's going to change is if people start to speak out in the workplace, in the classrooms, in public forums, so that mental health disorders get the respect and the treatment that is due to them. Hopefully, this type of public awareness will mean that community mental health, which is not funded nearly enough, will get more funding so it can serve more people in the community. If you would like to get involved in increasing awareness of mental health disorders, I recommend 2 organizations that work hand in hand. One is NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. Their phone number is 1-800-950-NAMI. The second organization is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and their number is 1-888-333-AFSP. Please call them and get involved in your local chapters and work to increase public awareness of mental health disorders so we can start getting some funding and some help for all of those of us who are suffering from anxiety and depression. This has been Douglas Bloch. I hope you've enjoyed this video and have learned something from it. If you want to subscribe to the channel or visit my website, healingfromdepression.com, simply click on the links in the closing credits. And until we meet again, I wish you the best in your mental health recovery. Thank you.